Good evening from SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California, and welcome to the webcast of the Saocom 1A mission out of our West Coast launch site at Space Launch Complex 4E, located at Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. My name is Tom Perderio, and I'm a firmware engineer here at SpaceX, and I'll be your host for this evening. Tonight, we'll be placing the Saocom 1A Earth observation satellite into a low Earth orbit for Argentina's Civilian Space Agency, or CONAE. Tonight's launch is scheduled for 7:21 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. That's 0221 hours Coordinated Universal Time, or UTC. Saocom 1A will mark SpaceX's 17th launch of 2018. This evening's launch is also an especially exciting one for SpaceX because it's the first land landing back at our Vandenberg launch site. Tonight, following second stage separation, that first stage will return back to the west coast of California and attempt to land on our brand new Vandenberg landing zone called LZ4, which we'll talk about more later in this webcast. Right now, you're looking at a live view of that rocket out on the launch pad at Vandenberg Air Force Base, which is about 225 kilometers north of SpaceX headquarters where we are right now. Now, Vandenberg is notorious for its fog, but as you can see, today is a very rare, clear day at the launch site. The only fog you can see is the gaseous liquid oxygen bleeding off from the vehicle itself, so it means that we're in great shape to launch today from Vandenberg. That first stage, the two-stage Falcon 9 vehicle is standing 229 feet tall, which is slightly taller than a 21-story building. The first stage, which is the bottom two-thirds of the rocket right here, has 9 powerful Merlin 1D engines right at the bottom. These 9 Merlin engines will light at T-0 and lift the vehicle from the launch pad up through the Earth's atmosphere and into space. On top of that first stage is the black carbon fiber inner stage, and on top of that is the second stage, which will then, after separation, take the spacecraft to its eventual destination in orbit. These stages separate at about 2.5 minutes into flight, and the first stage is the part of the rocket that we'll be attempting to recover today. And this first stage is actually a flight-proven first stage that previously launched in the Iridium 7 mission out of Vandenberg, this exact same launch site, back in July of this year. While this would not be the first time we're landing the first stage launched from Vandenberg, all of our previous West Coast landings have been done out at sea via our autonomous spaceport drone ship fleet. This will be the first attempt to bring this first stage back to land at Vandenberg. You'll also notice there's a nose cone-shaped structure right at the top of the rocket. This is called the satellite fairing. This fairing houses the Saocom 1A satellite and protects it until the vehicle is outside the Earth's atmosphere, at which point the fairing separates to expose the satellite. Because this is the first time we're landing the rocket back on land at Vandenberg, right next to the launch pad, this is an especially tricky one. Our most important objective tonight is to deliver the satellite Saocom 1A to orbit, but landing a first stage would be a significant achievement as well. If all goes well, we should be able to bring you live video coverage of the landing attempt as it happens. We are now just under 5 minutes away from the launch and still tracking no issues. At about T-minus 4.5 minutes, coming up very shortly, that transporter erector, the tower standing right next to the rocket, sometimes referred to as the strongback, will begin to retract away from the vehicle. The strongback's job is to transport the vehicle from the hangar to the launch pad and lift it to a vertical position, retracting just prior to launch. Inside of T-minus 90 seconds, you'll see a large plume of gaseous oxygen venting. This is just a normal part of the LOX bleed-off process. And then, finally, at about T-minus 60 seconds, you'll hear the launch team call out, "Falcon 9 is in startup." This indicates that the Falcon 9's internal flight computers have taken control of the countdown. Just in summary, the range is still giving us the okay for launch. The weather continues to look beautiful. In fact, most of the SpaceX team is either outside of our headquarters or at Vandenberg itself to watch this beautiful launch tonight. As a reminder, if anyone calls for hold in the countdown net, we will have a backup launch opportunity on Thursday at the same time. Like I was saying, we are monitoring no problems with upper level winds or ground level winds, and there is not a cloud in sight. So with just about 5 minutes until launch, with just about 3.5 minutes until launch, let's listen into the countdown nets as we approach T-minus 0.
Stage 1 launch is closed out. Stage 2 LOX load is closed out. Gas closeouts have started. Falcon 9's in startup.
Falcon 9 Saocom, go for launch and landing.
Fifteen seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Liftoff. Just cleared the tower.
Go 60 gun range. Signal drops nominal. Power and telemetry nominal.
All telemetry stations are receiving.
You're looking at the Falcon 9 rocket as it ascends through the atmosphere, carrying the Saocom 1A satellite to low Earth orbit.
Vehicle supersonic.
Right now, the vehicle is passing through max Q, which is the point of maximum aerodynamic pressure on the airframe. The vehicle actually throttles itself down for this portion of the flight in order to reduce structural stresses.
Altitude 30 kilometers.
For those of you just joining us, we did have a successful liftoff from the pad at Vandenberg Air Force Base at 7:21 p.m., just as expected. Coming up at T plus 2 minutes and 19 seconds, we're going to have a series of 5 events happening all very, very quickly together. That's going to be main engine cutoff, stage separation, second engine start, boost back burn start, and fairing deploy. It's going to happen really fast, so let's watch the views we have on your screen.
100.
Coming up in about 10 seconds.
Eco.
And there you have it. We had a successful main engine cutoff and then a good stage separation of that first stage. You can see the second stage Merlin vacuum engine lighting up right now, heating up and preparing to boost that payload the rest of the way towards its intended orbit.
Stage 1 boost back is started.
You should see that fairing deploy on the right-hand side of your screen right now. And there it is. Good fairing deploy.
Fairing separation confirmed.
So right now, what you can see is 2 separate views. On the left-hand side of your screen, you can see that's a view from the top of the first stage of the Falcon 9, currently executing a boost back burn. This is a shot from the ground as we can see it here in California. And on the right-hand side of your screen, you can see the bottom of the second stage as its Merlin vacuum engine continues to push that Saocom 1A satellite into low Earth orbit.
Stage 1 boost back is shut down.
That second stage will continue burning its Merlin 1 vacuum engine all the way until 10 minutes into flight.
Ascend trajectory nominal.
What you're seeing on the left-hand side of your screen is a beautiful shot from the ground in California of the exhaust gases of that first stage. Viewers in California may be able to see this from outside. You can see the grid fins on the side of the rocket have extended. Those puffs of gas coming from the rocket that you can see from the ground are the reaction control system on that first stage as it maintains its attitude coming back down towards the pad. The boost back burn is now complete from that first stage. The next thing coming up at 5 minutes and 56 seconds will be the start of the entry burn. This entry burn happens just as the first stage hits the thicker regions of the atmosphere, so it can slow itself down and avoid damage to those 9 Merlin engines, which are entering first into the atmosphere. You can see periodic bursts from those cold gas thrusters on the side of the first stage. So for those of you just joining us, we are currently following the first stage as it heads back towards the LZ-4 at Vandenberg Air Force Base on the left-hand side of your screen, and on the right is the second stage of the rocket as it continues to ascend towards low Earth orbit. There it is. That's the start of the entry burn of that Falcon 9 first stage. This burn is only about 30 seconds. Right now, that first stage is mostly empty of fuel, so it's actually pretty light. Doesn't need that much force to slow it down.
Stage 1 entry burn shut down.
And that looks like the shutdown of the entry burn. You're getting views both from the top of the Falcon 9 first stage as it comes down through the air, and also from the ground, visible from California.
Stage 1 FTS is safe.
Seeing that the sun is now below the horizon, we probably won't see much more of the first stage until it lights up its engines for the final landing burn. That's going to happen at T plus 7 minutes and 14 seconds. So coming up almost in about 5 seconds now. There it is. That's the start of the landing burn.
Stage 1 landing burn has started.
That Falcon 9 first stage should be approaching the ground just about in 5 seconds here. Let's watch as it attempts to land.
Stage 1 landing legs at deployed. Vandenberg, LZ-4, the Falcon is landed.
And it appears that the Falcon 9 first stage has just stuck the landing at LZ-4 at Vandenberg Air Force Base. This is great news for everyone here at SpaceX. Reminder that this is the first time we've ever landed a rocket first stage back at Vandenberg Air Force Base. Great news for everyone here. We're all extremely excited. Like I said, most of our team is at the launch site right now, and they must be out of their minds. So that is awesome. Right now, however, that is not the end of our mission today. The primary mission is still ongoing. On the center of your screen, you can see that Merlin vacuum engine attached to the second stage, still pushing the Saocom 1A satellite into low Earth orbit. We're going to continue thrusting that Merlin vacuum engine until T plus 10 minutes and 8 seconds, when that second stage engine will cut off. That's an event called SECO, second engine cutoff 1. Once SECO happens in about 45 seconds, the next big event is going to be payload separation, happening at T plus 12 minutes and 39 seconds. Second stage engine cutoff coming up in 10 seconds. And there it is. You can see that that second stage engine has shut down. We're now waiting confirmation that the stage is in a good orbit, exactly where we intend it to be.
Good.
And we have confirmation of a good orbit. This is great news. That means that there's only one more thing we have to do in order to get the Saocom 1A satellite to its destination in orbit, and that is payload deployment. Right now, the Saocom 1A payload is attached to the top of the second stage with a payload adapter fitting, which is holding on by way of some clamps and some small springs. When we give the signal to release the satellite at T plus 12 minutes and 39 seconds, give or take, those clamps will release and the springs will give the Saocom 1A satellite a gentle push away from the top of the second stage. On your screen right now, you're looking from the top of the second stage towards the Saocom 1A payload. That deployment is going to be happening in about 50 seconds, 50 seconds. Stand by for satellite separation in about 10 seconds. And there it is. You can see on your screen
Separation confirmed.
the Saocom 1A satellite gently gliding away from the top of the Falcon 9 second stage. This is fantastic news. This means that the Saocom 1A satellite has been put into its correct orbit, and the mission of the Falcon 9 is complete. So with that, we are going to be bringing the webcast to a close. Just a reminder, this was the fastest turnaround time for a West Coast relaunch, just about 2 months from landing to relaunch. To summarize what happened here today, we did have a good launch at 7:21 p.m. from the pad at Vandenberg Air Force Base. We then had a good ascent, and the first stage returned all the way back to LZ4 for a beautiful shot. As you can see on the right-hand side of your screen, that Falcon 9 just completed the first ever landing on the West Coast for SpaceX. After that, we had a good boost into orbit by the second stage, and finally a successful spacecraft separation for the Saocom 1A satellite into low Earth orbit. With that, we'd like to thank our customer CONAE for tonight's mission and their great support. We'd also like to thank the U.S. Air Force for the range support, as well as the Federal Aviation Administration. Continue to follow us on SpaceX.com for future missions and milestones, as well as our Twitter and our Instagram profiles. And if you are as excited as I am and as we are here by what you've seen tonight, and you want to join our team, please visit SpaceX.com/careers to learn more about working at SpaceX. Thank you to all of our viewers for your continued support, and please have a great night.